I was 14 when my parents sent me away and nobody asked if I wanted to go. I found out I was being sent away the same way I found out about everything important in my life, by accidentally overhearing a conversation I wasn't supposed to hear. I was 14 years old. It was a Tuesday night in November. I'd come downstairs for a glass of water and stopped on the third step from the bottom because I could hear my parents talking in the kitchen, in the quiet, serious voices they only used when something had already been decided. My dad said, "The place has a space from January." My mom said, "He doesn't know yet." My dad said, "He doesn't need to know yet." I stood on that step for 4 minutes. Then I went back upstairs, got into bed, and stared at the ceiling until 6 in the morning. I didn't get the glass of water. I didn't sleep. I just lay there with my hands flat on my chest thinking, they've already decided. They made a decision about my entire life and they haven't even told me yet. They told me 3 days later. Friday evening after dinner. My dad did most of the talking. He used words like opportunity and structure and fresh start. My mom kept her eyes on the table. I sat across from them and listened to them explain where I was going, when I was leaving, and why it was the right thing. And at no point in that conversation did either of them ask me a single question. Not one. I was 14 years old, and the two people who were supposed to know me better than anyone in the world sat across a dinner table and rearranged my entire life without once looking up and saying, "What do you think? How do you feel? Do you want this?" I asked one question. I said, "What if I don't want to go?" My dad looked at me for a long time. Then he said, "That's not really an option, son." I didn't say another word for the rest of the evening. The place they sent me to was a residential school 4 hours from home, strict in a way that made our house feel chaotic by comparison. 6:30 wake up, uniform inspection before breakfast, no phone during the week, lights out at 9:30. Every hour of every day accounted for by someone who was not me. The first night I sat on the edge of a bed in a room I didn't recognize with a suitcase I'd packed while crying, and I thought, nobody knows I'm here. Not my mates, not my girlfriend, nobody. I just disappeared from my own life on a Thursday morning, and nobody thought to ask whether I was okay with that. I cried every night for the first 2 weeks, not loudly. The kind of crying you do when you've learned that making noise about your pain doesn't change anything. Quiet, exhausted, completely alone. By week 3, something shifted. Not because the school fixed me, not because the structure saved me, but because I met a teacher there. I'll call him Mr. Cole, who did something nobody in my life had ever done before. He asked me questions and then waited for the actual answer. Not the polite answer, not the fine answer, the real one. He sat across from me in his office on a Wednesday afternoon and said, "What do you actually want your life to look like?" Nobody had ever asked me that. Not once in 14 years. I didn't have an answer. I sat there for a long time and realized I'd spent so much of my life responding to other people's decisions that I had never once been asked to make one of my own. That question changed something in me permanently. I came home 8 months later. My parents picked me up at the gate. My mom cried. My dad shook my hand and said he was proud of me. The drive home was mostly quiet. They never asked what it had been like. Never asked what I had learned or who I had met or how I had felt on that first night sitting on the edge of a strange bed 4 hours from everyone I knew. I didn't tell them about Mr. Cole. Didn't tell them about the Wednesday afternoon question. Didn't tell them that the thing that actually changed me had nothing to do with the school they chose or the decision they made or the structure they paid for. It was one adult asking one 14-year-old boy what he actually wanted. I have a son now. He's 9 years old, and I promise you, every single day, that when the big moments come, I will sit across from him and ask him the question nobody asked me. Not what's best for you, not what we've decided. What do you want? If you were ever the kid in the room whose opinion didn't count, send this to the adult who finally asked.